This is the concierge, sir.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Concierge Confidential. I'm your host, Brian Ortega, and after a week off, we're back at it, and we are fixing all the problems. So I took the week off just because I was actually moving into a new apartment. I'm very excited about it, really, really pumped up. Maybe I'll be able to do more videos. That'd be really fun. But I had like a couple different ways I wanted to go, and I've been wanting to do this episode for quite a while, and I think you guys might enjoy it. And everybody always has their opinion, but I have a microphone, so I get to talk about it. But the topic for today's episode is how I'm going to fix Vegas. You guys have probably been on Twitter looking at a bunch of different videos that say Vegas is dead, there's nobody coming to Vegas anymore, and I would say that's a little bit overblown, but there is some credence to a couple of things that have been happening in Vegas at a corporate level that really have people unhappy, which totally understandable. So I want to dive into that and really just figure out what's the best way that we can assist in businesses making money, but also helping the guest have the best experience they could possibly can when they come to Las Vegas. So this is the How to Fix Las Vegas episode with me, Brian Ortega, coming up next. Okay, Riz, let's go ahead and dive into the episode. So how can we fix Vegas, and what are the problems essentially that have faced the city? I think the major one is the really expensive prices that it is to visit Las Vegas. And this is the first thing that I need everybody to understand, is that Vegas is no longer what Vegas was in the 80s, 90s, even the 2000s, of being an approachable, affordable travel destination. It's no longer that. So you need to actually, from a consumer point of view, understand that from the get-go. This is not going to be your grandpa or your mom's or dad's old school Vegas. It's very much changed into being a very expensive proposition to visit the city, just in terms of 1, gambling, 2, lodgings, and 3, food and drink. I would say food and drink is definitely the thing that has really taken the hit in terms of what has changed the most for coming to Las Vegas, the value, getting the bang for your buck, that whole thing. I do have to say is that hotels in Vegas in general, especially for people who travel quite often, tend to be quite much larger and usually have a lot more amenities than a lot of other places do. Obviously, minus the coffee maker, minus the $26 bottle of water, which we do have. But it is one of those places that the rooms themselves can sort of justify their pricing, even though, again, it can be a very expensive proposition, especially when you add in resort fees and all that other sort of taxes and fees tacked on top of that. So I get it. It's expensive to visit Las Vegas. Totally understandable. But there are things that hotels can do to sort of alleviate that. And what is that? So I do want to get into it in this particular episode. And again, you have to understand yourself. Like, you have to understand when you come to Las Vegas, there are properties that are luxury by design. There are properties that are budget by design, and you have to sort of understand that before you visit the city. I would also say that, just in a helpful way, is that there are what's what I'm looking for. Expensive times to visit Las Vegas, and there's also more affordable times to visit Las Vegas. Typically in the summer is actually not too bad a time to visit Las Vegas in terms of pricing. But again, of course, the heat is what keeps people away. You want to stay away from the more popular months. So like March, April, those tend to be very, very popular months to visit Las Vegas. Same thing with like October and November, just because that's when the weather is the nicest. So you kind of have to understand that before you visit. So how would I fix Las Vegas? That's always the question, is how would you fix all the pricing and all that other good stuff. So let's hit on the first thing, which is parking. That's sort of like the easy one. Let's sort of start with the easy stuff and then work our way to the other more difficult things to sort of figure out from the get-go. So one of my fixes to the parking situation, which really affects a lot of the people from the surrounding areas like Arizona, California, and of course locals. So the one way that I think that would alleviate parking issues or problems online is if you move to a validated parking structure. So for those of you that are from Los Angeles, New York, specifically LA and San Diego, this is a really common thing, is to validate your parking. And the reason I use LA as an example is because that's where I visit the most and also park the most. So validated parking, for those of you that are unaware or not familiar with it, is you go into a business, you patronize the business, participating one, and then if you spend a certain amount, or if you're just there and you go inside, kind of just depends, the hostess will punch a time or punch a ticket, and then boom, your ticket's validated, and you don't have to pay for parking for the time that you were there, plus another 30 minutes to an hour. It just kind of depends. I just recently did this when I went to LA, and I went to do PARs in the farmer's market area, and yeah, you go in, you patronize the business, you eat, whatever, and then they validate it, and then you can leave. There's a sort of time limit on that, but you kind of have to do a little bit of planning, but it's not a terrible system. Especially in casinos, I think this is something that you can definitely track, especially because the parking is owned by the hotel. So essentially anything that you do inside of the hotel, you are spending money and patronizing that business. It actually entices, or it actually makes people, if you're going to park at that property, use stuff at that property. For example, a lot of times I'll park at Bellagio just so I can walk over to the Paris so I can go to their bar. So it is one of those things where if you make me have to use your facilities and then I get free parking out of it, I will definitely use that facility because it feels like I'm getting something out of it. I think this goes back to the value thing, where people just want something to show for what they are paying for. People don't like paying for parking in general. But to alleviate that of what old Vegas used to be, which was, this free parking value thing, this is sort of a way to meet in the middle with those people, because it's one of those things where we understand, okay, you're a business, you need to make money. This is one way that we can kind of meet in the middle. And again, if you don't end up patronizing that business, then sure, you should be charged for the parking at that point, if that's sort of their structure. So again, you can make it sort of a minimum, you have to spend $50 inside of the Wynn. The Wynn actually did this for a little while, but you'd have to go spend $50 in the Wynn. It can be at a gaming table. And again, these are all things that you can set up. It's just sort of a system. You can put a validating system at every single table. And if somebody, let's just say you play $50, you give them your card, the parking ticket, they'll either punch it or they'll scan it, usually most likely, and boom, you're good to go. You're scanned. That's just another task the dealer has to do, but it's something that they can do standing at the same table. You can even have the pit boss come and do it if you want to. I don't think this is going to cause any turmoil, just because it's such a sort of seamless system to do. And again, you can do this if you go to a restaurant. They can have the system set up somewhere that somebody's in charge of doing that, the waiter, the waitress, the hostess, whatever. You can do this at any of the bars as well. These are all ways that they can figure this out to put this in place for a lot of these things. So again, validated parking for people who may not be from Las Vegas. Just to take it to another step for those of you who are locals of the city of Las Vegas. And some places do this, and I think that they can go maybe another level. But the thing is, guys, locals, I get it. You live in the city. You're kind of entitled to a lot of things, at least in your head. I don't think you should get super duper free parking everywhere you go. I know it's sort of, an unpopular thing, but I'm trying to sort of meet in the middle in terms of these businesses. Yes, would I just love to have free parking all the time? Of course I would. But I really think that we have to try to meet in the middle of a lot of things. So I think you should receive 4 hours free parking across the board. Wherever you go on the Las Vegas Strip, 4 hours free parking. That gives you 2 hours to eat dinner, 2 hours to see a show, and Bob's your uncle, you're in. Just because 3 hours is tough. If you go see a show and then also eat dinner, 3 hours is enough time for both of those things. So again, 3 hours is good enough if you're going to go and, do what it's sort of looking for. Like go to dinner, just dinner might be enough time. But I think 4 hours is a good enough time. And I think the Fountain Blue did this for a while, and it actually was, I think, really good. A really good way to get locals into town. I think Resorts World is also great. Resorts World does, if you have their player's card, you can get free parking. I think that's a great system as well. It makes people have to sign up for your program to be able to get just a taste of the free stuff available at that property. So I have no problem with how Resorts World does it. I have no problem with how Fountain Blue does it. Wynn also offers 3 hours free parking for locals. I've gone over the 3 hours sometimes, and you kind of just understand that you have to pay because you knew that going in. But no problem with the free parking. Totally cool. Or 4 hours free parking, and then you have to pay after that. I get it. That's it for parking. Oh, last thing. If you are staying at the hotel, if you are staying on property, you pay them money to stay in their hotel, you should get free parking. And even if you don't want to call it free, you can include it on the resort fee. Add enough, I wouldn't say add any more money because you're already charging people, $50 a resort fee. I would just add it. If you're staying at the hotel, you receive free parking. I think other properties like in New York or Los Angeles, they charge parking fees if you're parking in their parking garage, which is almost the same amount as if you're charging a resort fee. They don't have resort fees in those cities. They might have destination fees. They do not have a parking fee. They don't have a resort fee on top of their hotel price. So, in essence, you are still charging them $50 a night, but they'd also get free parking. I think this would actually alleviate a lot of people's concerns about resort fees, knowing that it includes parking in that package. This does not include valet parking. If anything, I love valet parking for free. It's one of the cool ways to sort of feel like you're a big shot in Las Vegas, but I do have to say that valet is awesome, but if you want to charge something, sure, charge valet because those people have to stand there. But I did find out, and this is a little secret between me and you guys, is that if you park at the Wynn and you end up going and eating dinner at Delilah's, because I went with my parents, and you come out and you ate at Delilah's, you actually get free valet. And that, I think, is only for Delilah's. And the only reason I figured that out was because my parents were in town. We went to Delilah's. We parked valet because my dad has a very large truck. And when we were coming out, we had a Delilah's to-go bag. And the guy said, oh, you're eating at Delilah's, then you get free parking. And then it was comped. So that was nice. So a really cool little thing I learned is if you eat at Delilah's, you get, complimentary valet. But again, you paid for it at Delilah's. It was like it's an expensive meal. Anyways, that is my solution for parking in Las Vegas. And I also solved the resort fee problem. Although I think resort fees are stupid in general. Resort fees are so dumb. The dumbest thing I've ever had to enforce when I was a concierge was resort fees and trying to figure out what it was. It was terrible. So, anywho, moving on, let's talk about not charging for views. This was a thing going on for a while. I haven't checked in lately, but a lot of properties that have views were charging a minimum, or they charged you a fee to be able to have a view of the Las Vegas Strip or a view of their the thing that they wanted to show off. Places that did this were the Eiffel Tower restaurant, and I believe the Giadas. They were charging $50 for a window view, which I think is stupid. I think it's one of the dumbest things that I've ever seen, just because it's what's the point then? What's the point of me paying to come here? And then what if I wanted to tip you? I have no problem with you tipping the hostess, and then they give you a good view. That's the whole point of Vegas. That's the fun part of Vegas, is that, if I give them a little something, maybe they'll give me a view or something cool. That's the way it should be. I don't want to be corporatized to have to pay the company for that view. That's just the way that I look at it, because you're also getting my money as somebody who's just coming in to dine at your restaurant. Also, get out of here with those minimums. It was the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and I made reservations very early to go eat at Prime at the Bellagio, and hopefully with a view. And it's like the day before. This was not told to me at any of the emails, anything leading up to it. And it gets sent to me when I do the confirmation. Oh, there may be $150 minimum spend per person for these seats. And again, they clarified, it's if it has a view and all these other things. And I thought that was ridiculous. I'm like, why did you let me go 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks of having this reservation? And the first time that you come, this is brought up is the day before the reservation. Now I can't figure out whether I need to go to a different restaurant, if any restaurants are available. And I go with my parents to a lot of these, high-end restaurants when they're visiting in town. And each of us does not eat $150 worth of food. Like, I might eat $150 worth of food, but my parents do not. Like, they would split a $150 meal, if anything, because they tend to share. We all tend to share every so often, especially at these restaurants, and which is like a really good way to go. But we're not going to be spending, $450 on dinner if it's, $150 per person. So, yeah, I did not like that. I did not enjoy knowing that. And we need to stop it. We need to stop with these fees. We need to stop with table minimums if it is not specifically told at the onset. If you want to put on there, hey, this requires this charge, hey, cool, you got me. Like, if you need me to go in, if I really want that seat, I will get it. But don't not tell me and then tell me the day before this reservation. So we need to stop that. Stop. This is the nickel and diming we're talking about that we don't want to be responsible for the city. Moving on, let's talk about gaming. Gaming is a really important part of visiting Las Vegas, of course. And I think the table minimums have gotten too high at a lot of places. And I'm going to exclude a certain few. So places like, and it's very minimal, places like the Wynn, the Encore, the Venetian. I would say that those properties, I think the Venetian could probably bring it down a little bit, but let's just say the Wynn and the Encore, those properties have astronomical prices in terms of their table games. So blackjack, craps, blackjack, it's very rare to find a $25 table. Most of the time it's $50, $100, $300 tables, $200 tables, but like they're full. They are full tables. Their casino is full of people actually gambling. So if people are actually gambling, which I'm not going to lie, I usually go there in the evening. If people are actually paying those prices to gamble and it's a full table, like you guys are chocked to the gills, go ahead, do your thing. But like I walked around the Wynn, midday, and they changed it. They brought it down to $25 minimums for their craps tables, $25 minimums and $50 minimums for their blackjack tables. These are still very high numbers, but this is, lower limit for the Wynn. They do fluctuate their prices depending on the time of day, which is the way it should be. I hate when you go to places like the Aria, like the Bellagio, like Caesar's Palace, and you can't find a $15 table anywhere to save your life. They're always way too expensive, and there's like never anybody playing. The Aria is one of the worst places to gamble, in my opinion, just because of this specific reason. Your tables are not full, and again, I'm counting this on like weekdays. Like if it's Tuesday at 1:30 in the afternoon and it's empty, why not have a $15 table somewhere on your property? It's just mind-boggling to me that they don't understand this and say, hey, I want this business. And again, you're going to have a lot of these CEOs and casino managers say, well, I'd rather have one $25 player than I have 4 $15 players because a $25 minimum player will play more. Well, wouldn't you want your property to look busy? That's what I would want. I would want my property to look the busiest it possibly can because that would make everybody else excited to want to gamble inside of that place because they're approachable tables. I don't just want the $25 minimum player. I want everybody's money, and that's what I want. Obviously, guys, we're not going back to the days of $5 tables. Like, that's not going to happen. Even $10 table, it's going to be very difficult to find those. There's places in local parts of town that you can do that. But I get these properties on the Strip have to make some type of profit. $15 minimum seems to be where everybody lands in terms of what is the most affordable on the Strip, which is still a lot. But if we're having to sort of, catch ourselves in the middle, we should have more $15 tables on the Las Vegas Strip, and that would solve a lot of problems of people saying it's too expensive to gamble in Las Vegas. Obviously, you're going to have people who still think that's expensive, which I totally get it, but we have to meet in the middle at some point, and this is the way that we can do it. More $15 blackjack, roulette, and craps tables, I think, will help a lot of casino operators make a little bit more money. Even if it's not, the one big whale, you're going to have a lot of these little fishes that then they feel like they're big whales, and then they're going to spend more. That's the old school adage of Las Vegas. This was said by Benny Binion long time ago, is that if you treat a small player like a big player, he will spend like a big player. And I think that's a lot of philosophy that people have forgotten, is that we are willing to spend more money if we feel like we're getting value, or if we're getting valued, if people value us being here. And that has so much to say. If you treat us like we're nothing, then we're going to spend nothing. I think that is a thing that people need to understand, especially people in the casino business, is that you have to make people feel special. We've gotten away from making people feel special in Las Vegas, and that's why people came to Las Vegas, is that they didn't have to spend a lot of money to get top-tier service and feel like a big shot. That's what Las Vegas, to me, is all about, is you can come here, be whoever you want, and have a good time. You get to be away from your work. You get to leave places like Iowa, places like Oklahoma City, LA, or New York, and you can come to Las Vegas, and you can be a nobody in New York or LA. You can be absolutely nobody. I met a guy who was a gaffer. That's somebody who works in production, essentially, puts together stuff for studios and such. And again, it's a behind the scenes job. Nobody really knows about it. Not a big deal. But when you come to Las Vegas, you could say, yeah, I work in the movie business. And that could be you. That could be you for the weekend. That could be the card you play. And guess what? Nobody is going to question that. We just take it and we're like, that's awesome. Let's have a good time. I've met people who have done that. I've met people who've ran, who are entrepreneurs. I've met plastic surgeons. I've met ladies of the night at bars. I've also met, people who, I met a guy who actually owned a transaction company and then crypto, and then lost all the money, and then was on his second wife. And you meet all these different people. And why do people like to come to Las Vegas? Is because, again, we get to come here and escape our normal everyday lives to live in this fantasy of a city, and everything is within reach here. No matter what you think or feel about places back home, here you can rub elbows with anybody you want, and we just want that fantasy to live up to it. And I think a big part of that is our hoteliers need to remember that everybody wants to be special, and then that's what we have to give them. Again, we're living in a fantasy world in Las Vegas, but that's what we do. And I think I take pride. I used to work in the hospitality business. That's what I try to do. I try to make everybody feel special, and that's really what matters to me. So, little rant, but that's the way I think I would love to run a hotel. It'd be very stressful. Totally get it, and I know that Steve Wynn is sort of a bad person to bring up a lot because of his whatever his past, but this is the thing, and this is kind of going off of how to fix Vegas. Vegas is run by too many CEOs who are glorified accountants who are beholden to shareholders, which a lot of businesses are. This is not just a Las Vegas problem, but it's specific to Las Vegas in terms of Las Vegas is a hospitality industry, and we've lost the hospitality part of that industry. And that's what people like Benny Binion, people like Jay Sarno, people like Steve Wynn, Kirk Kerkorian, but I'm using Steve Wynn as the example here just because it's the most recent sort of mega guy. Derek Stevens at Downtown, very recent, is that you are in the hospitality business. You are here to be hospitable. You have to understand your customer, and by understanding your customer, you have to be on the floor. You have to see what they want, understand their needs, anticipate their needs, and then deliver those needs. And I think we've lost that. We've lost the visionaries of the city, the visionaries of the hospitality business, trying to figure out how to make hospitality better, not how to make more money off of hospitality. I think if you do one, the other will follow. If you become somebody who becomes innovative, figures out ways to get people to your properties using all these different, tools that we have, the money will come after that. If you're just worried about, hey, how can I get you here for the cheapest amount of price, but also charging you the maximum amount for my gain, I don't think that works very often. I think we need the visionaries to come back to the hospitality industry who are focused on hospitality. So that's my thoughts on that. Don't know how much that fixes Las Vegas right now, but I think that's something that we've kind of lost, and we need more people who have been, worked in hospitality from the ground up, just like every other industry, to help this industry. So anyways, that was my episode for this week, how to fix Las Vegas. I really wanted to get that off my chest, is that we need those visionaries back. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to comment on this episode. I think on YouTube. You could also comment on Spotify, I believe. Love when you guys can leave us comments or responses. Go ahead and rate the episode. You can also go check us out on our Instagram page, consciousconfidential_LV. That's tended to be where I will talk back to you guys, usually in DMs, or if you have any questions. I know a lot of people who have questions about making an itinerary for them. Those are a little bit harder to do right now, just because it's getting into football season and my normal job requires a lot more of my attention. But please feel free to keep sending them in. I will try to get to them as soon as I can in a timely manner before your vacation. Also, the football season is coming up, so you go ahead and go back and listen to any of the episodes about some of my favorite sports books that you can go watch the games at. Pricing, varies depending on the time of the year, but if you watch a Super Bowl episode, those tend to be very helpful as well. So, anyways, thank you so much for listening, everybody. Make sure to follow me, _confidential_LV, or Brian Ortega _26, or Brian Ortega _26. Or Brian _Ortega 26. I say it 5 times and I always forget the name of my Instagram. Sorry. So anyways, thank you so much for everybody for listening. Really appreciate it. If you see me out in town, come up, say hello. But remember, keep it confidential.